Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Tuesday, July the 28th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to open lower this morning with ASX futures down around 0.25%. Oil prices plummeted and treasury yields dropped overnight after the US suspended its campaign of airstrikes against Iran. However, stocks were mixed, with Wall Street investors awaiting the interest rate decision from the Federal Reserve and key earnings results from the hyperscalers. Chip stocks suffered another bout of selling before recovering later in the session, with the chip index falling more than 2% to be down 21% from its record high close to a month ago. SanDisk led the losses and Nvidia shed 5% amid renewed worries about circular funding ahead of earnings results this week from Apple, Amazon and Meta. Microsoft also reports this week. It helped lift the S&P 500 along with Walmart and Johnson & Johnson. Oil company shares tracked crude prices lower, while the gold miners followed bullion price higher. In Europe, AstraZeneca maintained its long-term forecast as second quarter profit beat expectations, while sales at luxury giant LVMH edged higher in the second quarter on strong demand from affluent US shoppers, which helped offset weaker spending in Europe. Well, President Trump has said the United States was having good talks with Iran and there was a chance of a deal, but warned that US strikes would resume if the negotiations failed. Iranian officials said that Iran would halt its own attacks as long as Trump's self-imposed ceasefire continued. However, Saudi Arabia said it had shot down drones aimed at petroleum targets that had been launched from Iraq by Iran-backed armed groups. Meanwhile, President Trump has called on the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates ahead of this week's FOMC meeting. He said rates should be lowered. We have other countries that are paying less interest rates. We should have the lowest interest rate in the world. Well, US Treasury yields have fallen along with oil prices after a suspension of US airstrikes against Iran and ahead of the rates decision from the Fed. The US 2-year yield down to 4.32%, the 10-year at 4.65%. The Australian 10-year yield is around 5.05%. The US dollar fell against the euro and the yen, while the Aussie dollar is currently trading at 69.9 US cents. Oil prices have plunged to their lowest levels in more than a week after the US suspended airstrikes against Iran. Brent crude futures falling around 9% to settle at around $88 a barrel. Gold is up close to 1% at $4,075 an ounce. Copper futures rose marginally, iron ore unchanged at $99 a tonne, and Bitcoin is currently trading just under 65,000 US dollars. Ahead locally today, RBA Governor Michelle Bullock will speak at the Annika Foundation fundraising lunch. And on the corporate calendar, quarterly updates are expected from Aeris, IGO, Iluka Resources, Liontown and Whitehaven Coal. That's your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.